Welcome to Pub in the Desert, where we bring you honest, curious conversations about faith and the human experience. I'm Matthias Miller, here with my co-host Kevin David Grittner. Before we dive in, we want to recap our three guiding principles. Number one, you don't need to be fixed; you need to be known, and we believe that love is knowing and being known. And second, we approach difficult topics with genuine curiosity. Not here to win arguments; we're here to understand. And third, we don't come with preset agendas. We let conversations unfold naturally, and we follow where authenticity leads us. So go ahead, pull up a chair, grab a drink, and let's explore what union looks like with God, with others, and with ourselves. So, Kevin, you mentioned something. You said this is why we're friends. So it's finally good to know what part of me I can't change if I want to hang on to our friendship.
Right. Perfect. Don't you dare change that.
But you mentioned that. So here's a little backstory. We've been talking about how much money it takes to live, like real life stuff, and this has been kind of eating at me, and like this gnawing thing in the back of my head. I'm like, man, we are spending way too much money on, and I think my wife and I feel like the same way. It's like we're spending so much money just to stay alive and keep our kids alive, and like it's not like we're going out and buying yachts, and well, we're not buying yachts anyway, but we're not doing crazy, really
I
crazy.
just pictured the yacht in Colorado.
I mean, it's kind of a dumb buy, but probably just makes it
But
bigger.
it sits in your front yard and it looks really cool.
Exactly. Exactly. And all the neighbors drive by and they're like, hey, he has a yacht. He's either an idiot or has lots of money or both. So and I mean, you mentioned, so one of the things that you mentioned, which is like, so what I ended up doing was like, okay, I'm going to take Claude, because that's my tool of choice, and I'm going to just throw all these problems at it, and we're just going to crunch through this. And it managed to find maybe a 5% waste in our monthly spend. That, I mean, it's great to clean up. Like, we should do that. And I was kind of expecting it to be like, oh, you're a terrible loser. Like, you're really wasting money here and there. And
You're a horrible person.
you're a horrible person. I mean, sadly, I couldn't find any like really like obnoxiously. I mean, it's good but bad. Any like obvious. Oh, like you should be spending. I don't know what for that, but surprisingly uneventful. And I think we all feel that you made this comment about the fact that feels like the system is rigged. Um, which triggers this whole other thoughts too. Like, everybody says AI is going to take away work, and well, one of my friends introduced me to an AI tool that is really reduces the friction of using AI in the workplace, which means it's accessible on your phone, which means that work goes with you, which means that AI is not reducing the workload. It's simply increasing the amount of work that any individual can do, which means we're all in this race. So,
Right.
so now that I'm past the monologue, the thing that really got my attention is this whole idea of being faced with a problem. Like, there's this uncomfortable point. Like, this thing's been eating at me for a while, and it's like I don't quite know how to tackle this or tease this apart, or what does all this look like? And you mentioned the choice between being a victim or being creative and trying to solve the problem, and which is great, but that in between space of um, waiting for the answer to show up, waiting for the creativity to know what angle to take the creativity, really is, I mean, that's an uncomfortable place to kind of learn to sit with.
Really uncomfortable. Yeah. 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 I mean, the point that I was making as you were speaking about all these things was this, I don't know what it is, but there's something off in the system. This is not working. It doesn't seem it's working out for anybody. And so there's something off. And I think there's moments of recognition within your daily life where something just like this does not make sense. Like, you went to Claude expecting him to say, like, oh, you're 50% waste in this area, da da da. You go, okay. But it came back with 5%.
No, in my spending, like compared my spending against benchmarks, and like you're actually below the benchmark in a lot of these categories. I'm like, wait, what? What do I feel like I'm failing in that case? Here's a
Right.
fascinating conversation that had a conversation with my brother, um, and he mentioned that um, uh, when he had a conversation with kind of their church, some of their church team, and he was talking to them about how when you optimize a financial portfolio, if you only set boundaries on either end, then the algorithm will optimize towards the boundaries. And
Right.
so when you're building a portfolio, you actually don't want you don't just want to say, you know, exclude all like low grade investments and whatever. You actually want to give it a target. Like I want the target quality of investment to be here at this level,
Mm-hmm.
and but don't do anything outside of these bounds. And he explained. I mean, the context of church. This was like in the context of, all right, like what are we actually building towards? Like, and pick whatever we don't want to be that or have that. Every organization has that. Like we don't want to be this or we don't want to be that. But which if you do, then what ends up if you have guidelines like that, then the natural. I mean, we as humans are shockingly algorithmic. If you use an algorithm and you just give it the outer bounds, it'll just go towards those bounds.
Right.
And instead having it
Just like human beings.
like
If in your
human
mind there's two options, the extreme here, the extreme here, and I'm going to float between those two extremes.
right.
Right.
And so the question I suppose is, I mean, there's a whole host of kind of threads of thought with this. I know embarrassing a little about football, but like the whole if you don't have restrictions on how players are recruited
Mm-hmm.
on the teams, then you have the same type of issue that happens, and you have no entertainment in the sport whatsoever. Um,
Right.
which is why you have to introduce some randomness and restrictions around that. In the same way, it seems like we have the case of unrestrained capitalism, where you have your first on paper trillionaire, and you also have people all the way in the opposite end of the spectrum, and the message that you get from people who are successful is that, well, it's a free country. So I was able to make the choices, the free choices to get to where I am. Therefore, anybody can. And I don't. I mean, this to me seems like kind of a nuanced conversation because
Yeah.
there are genuine limits, and like if um, if being if the highest paid jobs require some kind of engineering or sales skill, as an example, picking on two, or some kind of business ownership, then it means like there's a segment of the population that's predisposed to that, which means they're
Mm-hmm.
predisposed to better income. And not everything is. I mean, it's both and. Like it's personal volition, but it's also what cards have you been dealt by
Right.
whatever means.
Right. Right. Wow.
And as a side note, this is something also another fascinating conversation that I'm just going to throw in the pot. I had a conversation with somebody too about them feeling God's promises of miraculous provision for them, and I just realized how much my perspective has shifted because it's very true. He does, and at the same time, wealth and money as a human, I mean, it's just a game that we've invented, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah. Of
and
course.
and so God does provide miraculous provision, and usually that comes from people who've learned how to play how do they play chess, or how do you play checkers, or whatever the game is, whatever you want to call the game,
Right.
and prompts them to give financially, or sometimes he leads people to situations where they could benefit, but compensation almost invariably comes to positioning your chess piece. correctly on the board and to
Right.
the benefits of the game in your favor. So there's a very tactical, pragmatic type of thing around compensation and all of that.
Right.
It's a lot of math, in my opinion, but I'm kind of a math guy anyway. So,
Right.
um,
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's so many threads there. So many threads to pull on. The first one that pops out to me, at least to my mind, is the concept of optimization. And like you're looking at it via an algorithm, a conversation at church. How do we optimize here? And I wonder, I was thinking this week, and maybe it connects, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, tell me we're not going down that path. I was thinking about the optimization of human beings. I'm in the process of writing a year-long, what I call a year in remembering, going back to what has always been true. And I had this concept that there's been a wholly true conversation that's been happening since the beginning of time. And that wholly true conversation has always been about our orientation or our position towards God.
right,
That we are connected, that we are loved, that we are desired, that there's grace, there's love, there's mercy, there's all these things. And then there's a very fear-based human conversation that has been happening for less time, but not significantly less time. And that is always about how do I take care of myself? How do I earn? How do I strive? How do I keep? How do I make myself feel safe in this world? And the idea of optimization around that is so powerful. And here's the thought that came to me in the midst of all of this. We live in a society that believes the optimization of a human being, and there's different language for it, the healing, the emotional intelligence, the optimization of the human being is the primary goal, is what we should be shooting for the individual. You should be optimizing yourself, and everybody else should be optimizing themselves, getting healthy.
right,
The eternal loving conversation has always been about union. The some less eternal conversation, just shortly less eternal, it's always been about optimization. It's always been about healing, safety, security, justification, earning, striving, all those types of things. There's two conversations going on. And here's the thing that I found so fascinating. I went back to the Gospels, look at Jesus' interactions, a few different stories. One in John 9 about the blind man, the man who was born blind. And then the second one around him sending out the 72, and then the conversation he has with the lawyer shortly thereafter. And Jesus always seems to interrupt the fear-based covenant conversation with the eternal conversation.
right,
He always interrupts their conversation, whoever it is who's in front of them, with the disciples. Who is it that sinned, him or his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus responds with the eternally true conversation of neither of those. It's about God working in him. Or the lawyer, what do I need to do? And Jesus says, you know the law. Tell me, what does the law say? Love God, love your neighbor, love others. Or love yourself, love your neighbor. Right?
right,
And then it's almost like there's a pause there. And then Luke tells us that the lawyer had to go one step further to justify himself. Well, who is my neighbor? And Jesus does not teach. He does not give a sermon. He does not list out the law. He tells a story. a relational story about what it means. And this is where my brain goes as you're talking about business. My brain's going here. It's like, this is about the eternally true conversation that has always been in existence, that this is all leading towards union. And you're all talking about optimization and healing. Those are the two threads that are going on here. So what happens if we become me as a person, if my end goal becomes optimization for me? How does that not turn into me being very self-involved?
And it's, yeah, yes. And it's not just for yourself. It's also, what if I focus on being on optimization for my tribe?
Right, right. So that's going to create this environment in which I'm doing the right thing for the wrong reason.
Right.
So you have this, look at pop culture, look at social media, look at how many influencers there are out there that are talking about mental health or spirituality or those kinds of things. And they're telling you how to optimize yourself.
Where mental health and spirituality is not a means by which you love others better, but it's a means through which to, I mean, effectively optimize yourself,
Right.
which is where other people become an inconvenience. So, so I will cut you from my life because you're a toxic friend. And
Yes.
I don't deal with toxicity. I don't,
Yes.
because I don't want, because we are connected. And the moment that you are in my life, it becomes more challenging. I mean, we've talked about this. Like, there's a cost. It's more challenging to maintain good habits, to all of these
Of
things.
course. Of course.
And I don't want to bear that challenge.
And then we wonder where cancel culture came from.
Okay, so I mean, I want to highlight. Well, okay, so first of all, so then you're saying cancel culture is the natural outworking of hyper optimization,
Yes.
and in this case, optimizing for. I mean, I can think of a few efficiencies. Number one, it doesn't require dialogue. I don't have to waste my time explaining to you.
Zero dialogue.
Um, I mean, dictatorships are actually highly efficient when you stop and think about it.
If they weren't run by an inefficient dictator, they'd be even more efficient.
Well,
But they
okay.
are efficient in that I say, do this, and you do it. Otherwise, there are severe consequences.
I mean, it cuts off feedback loops, which then leads to other inefficiencies like, you know, mutiny and other types of things like that, which are really inefficient and impact.
Right.
Um, so, I mean, then if I'd have to put you on, I mean, okay, we're not turning this into debate, but if it would be like, you're basically saying that the fall introduced optimization. So optimization and sin, while not exactly the same thing, or maybe they are the same thing, or maybe it's a, like, how do you define the relationship? But like, that's a really close association that you're making.
I am. And this shocked me as well as I was thinking through it. But if you look at the Greek word for sin, it's harmatia, which essentially means incorrect perception, if you play it out. So, yes, is the incorrect perception that is all up to me. I have to provide for myself. I have to make myself safe. I have to, all these things. Is that an incorrect perception that I have to optimize myself?
Right.
Yeah, it is. And then when Jesus comes and he's having a different conversation and he's talking about metanoia, and John before him is talking about metanoia, which is has been translated repent. What it really means is change your thinking. You're seeing this the wrong way. Your view is skewed.
Right. So do you think this analogy, going back to the algorithm analogy, I mean, I don't know whether this is just, I mean, this is admittedly potentially just confirmation bias. But like, I'm trying to be smart and grown up and responsible at this stage of my life. And one of the things I'm doing that is riding my bike to work because, well, I have to get to work every day. And if I leave my car keys at home, then it means that I'm finding a way by foot, or hitchhiking, which I haven't done yet, but maybe not out of the picture. Uh, and I would like to think that that's so exercise as an example can become one thing that you fit into the world that integrates with what you're trying to do, how you're living, what's going on, which is
How you're optimizing.
how you how you're optimizing. Okay. Maybe. Um, but it's also not I would maybe make the argument that, yeah, I don't like that statement. Where the confirmation.
Make it, Matthias.
No,
Make
no,
the
I make
argument.
the statement. The confirmation bias version is that, well, I'm actually not optimizing that part of it. I'm because my goal is not to run. Nothing against people who do ultra marathons, but my goal isn't to do an ultra marathon. It's like there's a target level of exercise and fitness that I want to achieve, and it's not, or a target level of growth perhaps might be the right thing. It's not this insane, off the charts thing. But you can make the argument that the reason that I'm biking to work instead of, say, taking an hour to go do, whatever the alternative might be, then I'm making that decision because I'm choosing to optimize something else over that. So maybe the next question would be, and I think the answer is it's mostly heart motive. I guess making it personal. There's a few questions. It's heart motive. How do you know whether you're making that decision, whether I'm making that decision as influenced by optimization, or is there or is this simply a negotiation between me and the rest of the world around me to make reasonable accommodations to everybody to the best of my ability?
Well, that brings into the realm of possibility that there's a greater goal that we should be searching for, and maybe healing or optimization is what happens on the path to that goal. It's not the end; it's what happens on the path to that end.
So to further provide nuance, your issue is not with optimization in itself. Because there are entire movements, equal and opposite movements of non-optimization as a goal.
Right. Right. Apathy. Anarchy.
Well, and it's not even that. It's like, I mean, is this not the definition of the Amish? Just picking on them, like, why do things? Let's delay technology by 20 years, and let's resist the trend, and we will intentionally do things more slowly. And it's not perhaps anarchy in the conventional sense, or the I'm going on.
Oh, I like that.
I'm living in. I only read books on paper. I don't use AI, and all of those things. I mean, there's value because I feel like there's an attempt to. I mean, there's a look at the culture and saying there's something about the culture I don't like, and I want to do what I can to change it. And just as easily, those things can become the own end that we pursue just as much as optimization.
Right. Right. And is it fair to say I look at culture and there's things I don't like? Does that does that make the point clear enough? Or is there something else that's going on there? Is it just that I don't like it? Or is there something deeper there? Something like it scares me.
Well, okay, this is an observation. I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems like many of the people, for many of the people, they bowed out of the game because they could no longer win the game. And I think,
It threatened belonging.
well, I'm going to take this just way more pragmatically. Maybe this is wrong. I'm way more simplistically, less existential. It's um, like literally they knew that 80% of the world. Okay, so pick whatever lane it is, whatever career lane they're in. 80% of the world is winning, and they're not. And finally, they throw up their hands and say, "Well, I can't win this game, so I'm out." And now I'm going to play a
Right.
different game that I can win. I can win the non-optimization game. And
Yeah.
so I would actually argue again. I could be completely. This is on one hand could be the most compassionate, and on the other hand the most cold-hearted perspective. I have no idea, but part of my hunt has been when I got ejected from a game I couldn't play, was to say, well, what game could I actually play and win and be good at? And
Mhm.
more of a, again, I'm looking at this not very spiritually at all, just a pretty analytical way of, I mean, sorting through all of the emotions that go with it. Yes. Being emotionally intelligent. Yes. Dealing with all of the fear. Yes. And now that I'm on this side of it, it looks incredibly logical, which is simply like, okay, it's clear I couldn't win in that lane. What's a path that I can win in? And
Yeah.
it starts with an assumption. Now the negative, which had to be fixed along the way, whatever, healed along the way, is this idea that because I can't win the game, I don't belong. And solving the issue of belonging, I would argue, was a substantial part of my willingness to actually accept the game that I could win at. And
Right.
before I did that, I wasn't willing to accept that that was actually a game that I could win at. And once belonging was established, then I could choose to play that game. And I hopefully still remember, no, but I don't know, that it's still just a game. Um, the the spiritual perspective is this spiritual optimized Western perspective that's kind of true and kind of not, is that just trusting that God has a place. Oh, I don't know how much this is just influenced by the optimization culture, but there's a place of value for many of us to exist where we can contribute value to others in such a way that our needs can be met. But that's also hyper simplistic and doesn't fit all scenarios.
Right. Right. As you were talking, it reminded me of junior high school. That seemed to be, at least for me, the time where it became really delineated. Like what group was what, who was in what group, how did they get there? Could I play this game? If not, I found my group. Like as like the beginning formation of what that looks like. And so we find the group we fit in with.
Right.
Whether it's I play sports, so I fit with these people, or I'm into music, so I play in band and I fit with these people, or whatever hyper simplistic breakfast club kind of categories we want to have.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I started to think. And all of that is based on something because it happens everywhere. It doesn't matter the culture you're involved in, the country you were born in, where you grew up. Like it seems to happen all across existence. At this, it seems to begin at this age or in this age range. Like something automatically says, oh, now we're in competition. Oh, now belonging is in danger. I need to find my people. And maybe this isn't different. Maybe a further extension of that is us separating into denominations later in life. I don't necessarily fit here. This doesn't feel right. Don't experience this, but I feel like I can contribute here. And so this is my tribe. These are my people.
And there's also the inverse, where the tribe says, you're getting in the way of what we can accomplish. It would be more efficient without you.
Yes.
So sometimes the tribe, sometimes we're the ones who leave the tribe. Sometimes the tribe is the one, I mean, predominantly that decides the member isn't.
The tribe exiles us.
Exiles us, right?
Yeah. There's this, I may have mentioned this book before. There's this book by a guy named Christopher McDougall, I think it is. It's called Born to Run. Yeah, Christopher McDougall. He tells this story of hearing about, reading about this tribe of Native Americans that live in the Copper Canyons in Mexico. And he starts going into what their society is like. It's very egalitarian, um, gender roles, all that kind of stuff. And the financial system is essentially favors and corn beer. So you either can do a favor for somebody or you've got a barrel of corn beer and you can give it to them or, and it's like that. And they will go to, they, as a tribe, can endure extreme uh, feats of physical stamina, like run for 2 days straight, over 300 miles, up mountains, down mountains, around, like all it's fascinating stuff. And you're like, there is in that sense of that tribal community, there is a sense of belonging, but the sense of belonging is based on something greater than the individual.
There's something super fascinating with this, though, is that in if you look at tribal communities, it's very much driven by survival and what tribe you're born into, and it's kind of like I feel like the uh, yeah, I kind of feel like it's like the world of choice has allowed us to select tribes, and I feel like we're experiencing a consequence of that ability to choose. And if you're born into, maybe this is again hyper simplistic, but if you're born in a jungle environment where there are animals trying to eat you, then you stick with your tribe. And
Mm-hmm.
and what we've seen is that the downside of that, if you read any amount of writing about these tribes, is that tribes then become very insular. So
Mm-hmm.
they're within the community, they become um, hyper collaborative, but hyper antagonistic outside of that to
Right,
outsiders.
right. And if you think about this, what's the greatest from ancient history,
Hmm.
studying cultures, tribes, that kind of thing? What's the greatest punishment a tribe could give to an individual within the tribe?
I mean, disowning them.
It wasn't death, it was exile.
Yeah.
That was the punishment.
Okay, so here's another fascinating, just an observation. I don't know what interpretation to make of it, but isn't it interesting that that God did not get rid of tribes in heaven. He says he's bringing, I mean, he brings them together, I suppose, but there will be no tribes or nations.
Right. Interesting, right?
So what, I mean, if we wanted to dive more deeply into this, what are the trade-offs of being able to choose your own tribe?
Hmm.
It's almost like,
Well, I mean, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, immediately my thought was like, love demands a choice. If there is not a choice, then love is not present. And so you're given this choice of what do you want to do? And I think this goes back to what we were talking about. There's one path, there's one conversation that's eternally being had, and one that's a little less eternally being had. The one's about belonging, it's about union, it's about communion. The other one is about optimization, self sufficiency, performance, all those kinds of things. And you get to choose. The end result of the eternal conversation, in my opinion, is communion,
Right,
community,
right.
everyone together. And optimization or healing is what happens on the path to community.
It seems to me that, did you hear that tapping? Did you hear a
Yeah,
tapping?
yeah.
That's weird. I don't know where it's coming from. Somebody's trying to bore their way through the brick wall. Um, the Not completely lost my train of thought. But it's like, so I think the question. So here's how I would think about it. We live in group. I mean, we live not just in a single tribe, but tribes become more expansive, and so traditionally the people, your geographic, the people around you geographically was your tribe historically, and even within Israel, like we see tribes within tribes, effectively,
You're right.
people groups, and families within that, and and each one has its own ability to pursue community, and each one has its ability to be insular in whatever capacity from the rest of the world, and
Right.
each group, by whatever means, um, gets to choose how insular or how community oriented it actually is.
Right.
And
And isn't that the point that Jesus is making in Luke 10? When the lawyer looks at him and says, "Who's my neighbor?" He says, "You have these insular communities. You have the Levite, you have the priest who go by, and they go to the other side. They create distance because of their structure, because of their beliefs, because of their ideas. And then you have this complete and utter outsider who is for lack of a better term, the enemy of everybody who's standing there having that conversation with Jesus, the Samaritan. He's the one who closes the distance. What if God's idea of tribe is all of humanity?
Mhm.
Everyone, always, everywhere.
But we still have this fundamental problem. And if you wanted to, so let's start with an example that's hopefully not too politically loaded, but but maybe may illustrate the example. If you look at the idea of immigration, the fundamental question is who can be part of this community and how. And in order for community to work, there does genuinely have to be a desire and a willingness by all parties in to move towards community.
Right.
And
Right.
the challenge that you see on the left and the right, you have all of these arguments, and it's like, well, we should be building community. Well, we should keep out the people who don't want to build community. Like that's seems to me like we're just having politicized conversations around those two ideas.
Right.
And fundamentally, the challenge that we have with choice, I mean, that's fundamentally kind of a we are politically struggling with the doctrine of heaven or hell, and really in some capacity, like it's
Right.
how if the tribe is humanity and you have people who are not pursuing communion by choice, community,
Mhm.
communion, union, knowing, then what?
Right. Right. Because there's a criteria, right? There's a criteria for this community, for this communion, for union to happen. There's a criteria. And I think there's one, I may be off. This may be an oversimplification, but I think there's just one aspect of criteria for being a part of that community.
Okay.
I think it's love.
Yeah.
Can you know and be known? If, as scripture tells us, God, excuse me, God is love, and we are made in his image, then the criteria for this community is love. That's what Jesus says to the lawyer. Love God with everything you are, love your neighbor as yourself. Know and be known by God, first and foremost. And he says the next one's just a little bit below it. Know and be known by your neighbor, know and be known by yourself. Lay all the optimization down and know and be known by your tribe. And we took that and we decided we were going to create tribes that are safe and we were going to optimize those situations. And if you agree with this, you're allowed in. If you don't agree with this consistently, you're out, you're exiled. And then we create these power dominions where everybody's fighting for resources. To me, that explains our world in its current iteration better than anything I've heard.
So I've got two questions with that. What then is how does Christ fit into all of that? That's my first question. Um, and second of all, is this simply a pragmatic ideal? Like, is there really any way to? I feel like there's this idealistic, like, let's live outside the system kind of idea. But
But you can't because you rob yourself of community at that point. To live outside the system, to live outside the tribe, that's the problem with utopias. We break away because we're going to create this perfect existence, and then it never ends up being perfect. But we
right,
have this idealistic version that that's what it's going to be. You cannot live outside of the tribe and say you're interested in communion.
right, right.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
So where does Jesus fit in all of that? He is the image of God incarnate. He is here to show us that God does not just sit at a distance and hope we figure it out. He enters the mess. Look at what the Samaritan does in that story. He crosses the road to the man. He binds his wounds. He takes care of him. He puts him on his horse, donkey, pack animal, whatever it is, and takes him to an inn. He spends the night taking care of him. This is the powerful thing that I never recognized until I was looking at this recently. Then, when he has to leave to go about his business, he says, "Here's money. Take care of him. And when I return, if there's anything else he owes you, I will take care of it. It's on me." He's talking about himself. He's talking about his role, his job. Emmanuel, God near us. That's it.
So there's a sense. Help me tease this apart. There's a sense in which there's a sense of responsibility and obligation. Obviously not by compulsion, but there is a sense of this is my problem. I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, right. Not I'm going to fix it. I'm going to
Sorry.
enter in. I'm going to enter into it with the person
Sure.
and walk with them in that. Because he
Right.
doesn't fix the man who's been beaten and robbed.
Yeah.
He ministers to him. He takes care of his wounds. He makes sure he has a place to rest. He pays for whatever that cost is. And if there's a greater cost, when I come back, I'll take care of it. He doesn't fix it. He enters into it with him.
So then,
We'll look at this dynamic. Maybe this helps.
okay.
And again, we may be getting a little political here, but we should start putting our fingers in the wounds anyways. So a few years ago, after a number of unfortunate incidents, an organization started called Black Lives Matter, which had as its goal was to protect Black people in society. Okay, wonderful. People are getting abused, people are getting hurt, all that kind of stuff. Then you systematically had a backlash against who was hurting Black people. And there was a period of time where police officers were persona non grata. Okay.
Mhm.
Then you had the response of all lives matter or blue lives matter, whatever the case may be. How is this not tribes? And I remember seeing a video of a pastor, this is years ago, and he was talking about Black Lives Matter and people's response to it, Blue Lives Matter, and he goes, "Why don't you just allow them to have it? Why do you have to argue against it?"
Mm.
And I remember writing a comment in God, this is probably 8 years ago. I was a long time ago, whenever it was, a long time ago. I wrote a comment and I said, because that's what God does. It's the tribalism that's killing us.
Mm.
You have to enter into the situation, not create another tribe. Because that tribe's goal is going to be tribal optimization, safety, security, all those types of things, just like this tribal goal is hyper tribal optimization. And there is going to be, like you said, that gets insular.
Right.
So anything outside that is a threat to my tribal identity, and I'm going to defend it.
Right.
And that's not what I see God doing in Jesus. I see him sending his son into the mess. Not to create another denomination or a religion or anything like that. He's sending him into the mess saying, "This is how I operate. Now you go do the same." Like how Jesus ends that portion in Luke 10. The lawyer goes, or Jesus just asked him a question, "Well, who is your neighbor?" "The one who showed compassion." And Jesus' response is, "Now you go do the same." That's what I'm talking about. Now you go do the same. So you could sit here and you could criticize the healing, self optimization, all that kind of stuff. idea, and it has its logical flaws and its foundational fragmentation, or you could enter into it and say, hey, we're missing something here. I want to show you this. This is what it looks like to step into it. In the state of California, we have a massive debate because there is a giant homeless population throughout the state of California. And the government wants to throw money at it. And there's billions of dollars and all that kind of stuff. It has not dented the problem at all. The problem is you didn't step into it.
I came okay on that very topic. I heard something over the weekend, which obviously makes me this incredible expert now. That was sarcastic, but
Thanks for pointing that out.
the the city of Houston basically centralized all of their efforts around homelessness into a single government organization, and by doing so, solved an incredible amount of issues at a tenth of the price of what picking on LA is doing. And the point that was being made was that there are all of these nonprofits trying to solve their particular problem, and it's all in the name of good. And most of these probably don't show up. I mean, many of these things. I'm sure there are people who are doing this because, oh, here's a great cause that people are going to give to, and I can make a lot of money with the director and all this stuff, and meet interesting people, famous people, and all this stuff. I mean, there's certainly people who do that, but if you just even leave that off the table, here's a cause. I feel drawn to it. I want to help. What can I do? Oh, now I need money. Well, now I have to compete with other people for the funding to go do this because this is important to me. And now all of a sudden you're competing against other people, and oh well, but to do this, I now need this kind of admin support or this type of this building or this thing, and now this person needs a building, and that person needs a building, and we need this resource and this program and this fundraiser. Now the calendar starts filling up, and people get invited to lots of fundraisers, and you have the horrible inefficiencies of fragmentation. And it's kind of fascinating that the very tribalism that we're trying to solve gets replicated amongst the problem solvers. And I don't say this to throw people under the bus. I think it's very natural, and I think I do this too, where it's like I want to be the one doing it how I want to be doing it, and I don't want to take the time to think through who else is trying to do this and how can we do this together, because it feels like coming together slows down the process. And in many times it actually does in the short term, and in the long term you experience substantial, for lack of a better term, optimization and efficiency, because you're not competing over the same resources. You're just working together to solve the problem.
Right. Right. Right.
Which raises the question, how much good is the church not doing because we're focusing on each I mean, the church is almost inherently has this type of issue, because we're all solving. Every church is solving its own problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, I may get in a little trouble here, but it's nothing new. So you created a theology that says that you are what's the term, depraved, um, irreparably depraved. The Calvinist.
I don't know. I don't know. I
Okay.
mean,
Anyways, so you created this theology. Where human beings are, I'll use the term irreparably depraved. Easy for me to say. And then you got them to hyper focus on their own spiritual life and to work out of being that. Right? Okay.
yeah.
So I'm so consumed with the optimization of my spiritual life and my healing how can I see beyond that to anybody else? The only way I'm going to be able to do that is if it benefits me spiritually.
Uh, which, so, I mean, so basically what you're arguing for is, or stating, I don't know what, like, you have to be willing to lose your point of reference and kind of your mooring around your spirituality and
Mm-hmm.
be like, and I identify very strongly with this because most of the time in my life, I don't know how spiritual I am. And most of the
Mm-hmm.
time, I actually feel horribly unspiritual. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of, in my opinion, not a lot of points for helping. I mean, just pick any random example. Like, what's the value in helping a business make more money from a quote spiritual perspective,
Right.
or just making sure your kids stay alive and fed? And I know that there's more to parenting that happens than that, but
Right.
um, and I may be exaggerating, but it's like I see how much effort goes into helping others, and you don't know whether it's actually, there's still this question in the back of your head that can exist, at least for me, where it's like you like, is this moving the needle on my spirituality? Like, and why is that even a question? Like, that's,
Right. Right. Right.
is that what
Why does that even matter? Why does it even matter? Take something like Operation Christmas Child. Massive organization. Around November, late October, November, like in this area, schools go there and they volunteer to pack the boxes, and within schools they hand out boxes and the family can pack one, and all that kind of stuff. It's massive organization. Then they're delivered, and these kids with these smiling faces, and okay, so this is an organization that's delivering this. Okay, how much more powerful would it be is if you as a family put something together and went and spent time with that other family? And I've thought for a very long time, again, somewhat controversial, but we go to church and we pay somebody to do our work for us. The church should be doing the outreach. The church should be doing the mission. The church should, and there's volunteers that come and help. But you know as well as I do, there's the 90-10 principle within a church. 90% of the work is done by 10%, and they're exhausted and burned out and overwhelmed and all that kind of stuff. We've all seen it and experienced it and heard it. Okay. But churches promote that. Give your tithe, and these are the projects we're doing. Hmm. I had this situation last week. We didn't record last week, so I had some free time Monday afternoon. I'm sitting here working on my computer. I get a knock on my door. The neighbor kid, probably 12, 13 years old. He looks at me and goes, "I've got a business idea for you." And I go, "I'm all in. Tell me. Please tell me." He tells me, "I'm going around the neighborhood and I'm cleaning people's trash cans." And I go, "What do you mean by cleaning trash cans?" Because we have like the bins that the company gives us, and they get, nasty, all that kind of stuff. He goes, "I'm cleaning those out." And he goes, I'm charging $15 per bin. And I looked at him and go, "You're undercharging. I mean, you're dealing with muck and grime and all that kind of stuff. Like, you should be charging more." He goes, "How much do you think I should charge?" I go, "Well, let's do market research." I go, "Let's start at 25. And why don't you go around the neighborhood, knock on doors, and see how many takers you get at 25?" He goes, "Okay." So I go back up into my office. I'm working, and probably 3 hours later, he comes back. It's like 5:36 at night, and he goes, "I went around the neighborhood." I go, "You did? What did you find?" And he goes, "I had 35 takers at $25 a bin." And I go, "That's awesome." And so he's all excited. I'm all excited for him. And I go, "What are you going to do with that money?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm going to buy, I've got this. I want to buy one of this. I want to buy, it's like video games, shoes, clothes, whatever." And I go, "Do you think your business is going to continue after today or after you get done with that first run?" And he goes, "I hope so." And I go, what about taking some of that money and using it to further somebody else's plans? Like I just did for you. What if you did that for somebody else? "Oh, it's a great idea." I go, "Think about it tonight. Come back to me tomorrow and we'll have a conversation about it." This is the best Monday afternoon / evening I've had in a long time. And so he does. Comes back and he goes, "I found out that there is this guy. There's right like 5 minute walk from my house. There's a 7-Eleven, and there's a gentleman who sits out in front and is there like it's regular place." He goes, I know that guy. I've talked with him." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "He needs this, this, and this." And I go, "Awesome." So he goes, "I'm going to do this, this, and this for him." I go, "Okay." And I go, What are you asking for him to do in return?" He goes, "I didn't even think about that." So I go, "Think about it tonight. Come back tomorrow. We'll have another conversation."
That's awesome.
So good. And that was the reality of he broke up the monotony of my day with having an interaction with him, and I could help him. And then he's helping other people. And then he's helping himself. And then he's helping this other guy. And it's all because we stepped into the situation with him, not just gave him money and told him to go away.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. What if we were, as a tribe of human beings made in the image of God, could do that?
Hmm. And I don't really want to get into specifics on the podcast, but I just would love to tear into specifics. Like, here's this situation. Like, how did we apply it here?
Yeah. Oh, let me say one last thing. Sorry. You know the greatest gift of the whole experience?
Tell me.
Friday. So end of the week. So this started on Monday, Friday. I see his mom. She's pulling into her into her garage, and usually we wave, we say hi, but not too much interaction. This day she walks at like she parks fast, and she hops out of her car and runs over, and she goes, "What did you do to my son?" And I'm like, "Okay, what happened?" And she goes, "He's like giving money away, and he's earning money, and he's did it, he did it." And I was like, "I was just teaching him what like community looks like."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Thank you." Like it was my pleasure. It was so much fun. It wasn't like a burden to me. It was fun getting to know him and working with him. And like that was beautiful. And here's the thing. I've lived in this house for 5 years. We live in a courtyard, 5 houses around it. I don't know anybody else in this courtyard other than like, "Hi, bye, how's your day?" That kind of thing. Now I know somebody.
Yeah.
To me, that was the greatest gift.
Yeah.
That was the best thing.
I'll be completely honest. I'm sitting here and I'm like, my mind is just itching for like what how do I increase the tangibility of like what this actually means for me right now?
I think it goes back to what we said at the beginning. What conversation am I involved in? Am I involved in the optimization, healing, self-protection conversation, or I'm involved in the larger conversation that's community? And I don't think there's any one way to do it.
Right. Feels to me like there's so much of my life that's wrapped up in, on one hand, feels like so much of my life is wrapped up in giving, and in another hand, there's so many opportunities that I completely miss.
Me too. Me too.
I think this goes back to, um, and this may be kind of the, maybe I'll frame this as a little bit of the heartbreak and grief of the way that we're impacted by life, I suppose. But and that sounds really dark and ominous, maybe more ominous than I intended to. But like, there's a very there's a people who know me know that I'm incredibly gifted technically, and I have a very strong systems mind,
Mhm.
and um, I love it. Like it's I enjoy it. It's not, you know, increasingly, especially as AI gets better, I get to it's changed how I'm able to work, and it's only made it better. The dark side is that when you spend so much of your life working with inanimate things, picture it like this: like what if your job ages ago was a miner, and all that you were doing is you were taking your pickaxe and going underground and chipping away at rock, or you were an explorer and it was you and somebody else, and all that you're doing is trying not to die and finding new things and documenting what you can. There's incredible value that gets generated created by doing that. Like it really is beneficial to the tribe. But there's this conflict that can happen. I mean, if that is truly what you value. So maybe I'm just like, you know, verbally broadcasting my values conflict on air. But like it's it's like you don't like, again, this is just how I look at it functionally and pragmatically. Like there's social and relational skills and capital that you miss building by making that choice.
Yeah.
And it benefits, does it benefit other people substantially? I think so. Is it
Yeah.
at a cost? Yes.
Yeah.
Am I okay with that cost? Sometimes, but sometimes I'm not sure.
Right. What
And
if the greatest cost is the death of your ego?
explain further.
There's other costs, financial, relational, all those kinds of things. Yeah, and those are significant costs. But what if the cost of going from this eternal conversation about communion away from towards that away from the conversation that's me, self-sustained, keep me safe, taken care of, all those kinds of things. What if that has to die to be involved in this conversation? And that's the greatest price any of us can pay, is the death of our egos. Or maybe the one that we are least willing to pay.
Right.
Money, time, whatever. Okay. But my ego, my view of myself, my idea of who I am, that was never on the table. Maybe that's the very thing that he's asking for.
I would, I've had, I would have, I've had a million and one. Well, okay, so to that point, just to make the example completely extreme, like, am I, um, i- if I had to reframe your statement, by this is sorry, like, forget all that. But if I had to reframe your statement, effectively the question is, if my contribution is in this capacity, am I okay not managing other people's perceptions of me that are the natural outcome of me being that person?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because if I'm being completely honest, there is very much of, and the ego is very much into some kind of popularity and likability contest here. And there
Yeah.
is a, for lack of a better term, it's like there really does seem to be a game that I'm still competing to win, that I'm maybe not, maybe I'm not in the right game.
Right. Me too. Me too. I'm promised belonging, acceptance, love, here and now, eternally. And yet, I live in a world that operates in competition and separation and power dynamics. And so I'm pulled into this. But he's constantly saying, I'm here. Come to me. And I find that extremely hard. Even when I'm mindful and that's the goal I'm shooting at, I still find it extremely hard to come to him rather than hear the voices around me. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that well. I'm trying, but I'm not good at it. But all that being said, I think healing is what happens on the road to communion.
Yeah.
It's not the goal. Can't be the goal.
No. And even functionally, and I've seen this in my own life, that there's, it's surprising the level of how often optimization for optimization's sake breaks so many things in life. And the optimism, I think it's inevitable that some things will be optimized and some things will become much more inefficient on our path to community. But if you want the ideal optimized version of something, then it is the thing that fully integrates into the rest of the world that is not on an island by itself. This is getting, sorry, just one more comment before we close this out. But this is super geeky, but Goldratt is known for his theory of constraints and well known in manufacturing and famous book The Goal and all of these things. And his point was always, you will always have a point of constraint. You're not trying to make everything as efficient as possible. You're just trying to move the bottleneck to a better place. And this whole idea of like, it's just senseless to try to optimize everything. You want healthy optimization, taking into consideration the whole, and that comes through. That's only possible through community.
Yeah. Well, what struck me as you were talking was, in optimization, there is no rest. And God seems to be really adamant about rest.
Yeah. Seems like it.
So how many people do I talk to on a weekly basis who the first thing they say when I ask them how they're doing is, "Oh man, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm worn out." 99.9% of them. That is the effect of optimization. And I think that goes back to what we say at the beginning. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to be optimized. You need to be known. And you can't be known unless you slow down and rest and are present.
Right. So the question that I can't help but ask, am I one of those 99.9% of people?
We are some of those 99.9% of people. Not just you. We.
That's fair. And maybe, again, if you flip it from the perspective of fixing, maybe the simple answer to that question is, well, sit, relax, take a moment, breathe. Maybe that's, in today's age, going back to that your 12-year-old neighbor, maybe that's one of the best gifts we can give to other people, is give them an invitation to breathe.
Yeah. Slow down.
Slow down.
How do you love the Tasmanian Devil? Remember that cartoon from when we were kids? You just like freak out and start spinning and tear things up, and like, you can't know him.
Yeah.
You can just know his path of destruction.
Right. Chase him down and try to get him to stop.
Right. Stop. And then you get thrown out.
We went on a little classic Tom and Jerry binge over the weekend, so that's also a great,
so good
picture for that.
So good. They just don't make cartoons like they did when we were kids.
No. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in light of this optimization, we both have places we need to be.
Right. Because we're so heavily optimized.
Wow. Well, just what I don't know. Optimization versus community. Two concepts that I have not considered how they might be juxtaposed with each other. But what a fascinating conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation.
And thanks to all the people who listened in. Yeah. We're grateful for you. And if you stumbled upon us, you can find us the same place you found us. So, yeah. Till next time.
Till next time.